In every group of people, you'll always find some people that look at the world slightly differently. And our next speaker is one of those. He's a young man, a very likable young man, who looks at the world in a different way to a lot of people, which I've discovered. Please welcome, ladies and gentlemen, Ryan Dugmore.
Can you guys remember a time where you pictured yourself somewhere into your own future? Think about it now. Where maybe you had your dream life or the job that you always wanted. Admittedly, I still picture myself as Zac Efron, soaring and flying my way onto High School Musical. No, seriously. Really. But we know it's not enough just to want something or envision our future. We actually have to evolve as individuals to ensure that we can bring that future into present. So it just got me thinking how we, a diverse and talented group of individuals, can best move forward into a world that is constantly changing. Firstly, I found that we need to get a better idea of where we are heading. And then we need to assess how we can better prepare ourselves. But most importantly, I found it takes an awareness of how you think. And it takes the understanding of who you are. And also it takes the clarity to know your true worth and ability. And it is in these three areas that will help you form your character of the future. So, as young professionals, what world are we moving into? These statistics were published by the World Economic Forum, and they indicate to a vast difference in the world we are moving into. If you look at those stats, everyone, 1 in 3 of the skills that we consider to be important are not going to be relevant in 5 to 10 years. 4 out of the 10 jobs we think have influence on our life now, in 5 to 10 years, are going to be non-existent. So, what do we do? Well, if success lies in preparation, and success is so important, we need to ask ourselves these types of questions in order for us to get the future that we want, and essentially the future that we deserve. So, let's have a look at the trends that are shaping our future that we're moving into. There are 4 main drivers of change I'd like to touch on, and the first one is longevity. The longer we begin to live, the way we live is about to change, and multiple careers are going to become commonplace. Just like the smartphone, smart machines are soon to become a focal point of all our lives. They are going to replace human tasks in some areas, and they're going to augment them and enhance them in others. Thirdly, computational world. To illustrate this point, I read an article in Forbes the other day, and it mentioned that video screens are becoming so cheap and disposable that they'll be plastered everywhere. And they'll have enough intelligence and connectivity that they'll see our face, do a quick search on Facebook to see who we are, and then direct a message at us based on our purchasing history. This is just one example to illustrate how computers are increasingly gaining an influence in our world. The last driver of change is new media ecology. The way we access information is changing. We all know that. We're at the forefront. And we need to make sure that we're up to date with this. And the way we are consuming information is altering how you and me consume the media that we so often go on our phones and read every day. So, if these are the 4 main drivers of change that are shaping our future, we need to make sure that we are able to best capitalize on the opportunities that will present ourselves. So, we need to have an understanding, as I said, of how we think. That's mindset. We need to know our true worth and our capability, that skill set. And lastly, we need to have an understanding of who we are and how we can develop. Let's start with mindset. Well, our future life is going to be what our thoughts make of it now. And there are 2 mindsets I want to touch on today, and the first is a fixed mindset. This is when we believe our intelligence, our characteristics, and our talent are all fixed traits. We spend our time maintaining and supporting these instead of actually developing them and improving them. The growth mindset is where we want to be. This is when we believe our abilities can be improved through dedication and hard work. Brains and talents are merely the starting point. The growth mindset it creates a love for learning instead of a hunger for approval from other people. And it gives us a resilience in the face of challenges that is really necessary in achieving success. So, moving forward, I'd like to ask you this question. How do you view your mindset? And I'd like to refer to a story that I was reading when doing my research. Back in 1962, President J.F. Kennedy was touring the NASA Space Center. And on his tour, a janitor ran past him with a broom and started furiously sweeping the floor, of which the president asked, "Sir, what do you do here at NASA?" Of which he replied, "I take out the trash, Mr. President, and I help clean the floors." As President JFK was continuing his tour, he went through the next door, where he saw a man whistling enthusiastically with a smile on his face doing the same task. He asked the same man, or the man the same question, excuse me, "What do you do here at NASA, young sir?" Of which he turned to the president and said, "I'm helping put men on the moon, Mr. President." And the message I'm alluding to is how you view your mindset and how you view yourself is going to reflect in how you view your work and how you view your life. And it's important to note that a subtle difference in outlook can make all the change. So moving forward, how can we expand our skill set to make sure we can capitalize on these opportunities in the future? Let me touch on 1 or 2 points. The first skill we're going to need is social intelligence. We need to work on our soft skills and be aware of social settings, especially as our world increasingly supports robotic science and artificial intelligence. The next skill, computational thinking. Data is going to begin to drive all the decisions in our life, and we're going to need to make sense of this data, spot patterns in the data, and then use them to guide our decisions in the context of our lives and the context of our work. Our next skill set, cross-cultural competency. We are going to need to operate in different cultural settings. As the interconnected world becomes smaller, we need to have a better understanding, more knowledge, and we need to be open-minded to different world cultures. New media literacy. As marketers, we need to be on the cutting edge on how best to leverage new ways to communicate with our consumers. We need to make an impact on their life, and we need to use the best, most appropriate channels to do that. Lastly, sense-making. I'd advise you to research this afterwards because it's a relatively new concept, and Steve Jobs came up with it. And it's defined as the continuous and motivated effort to understand connections, to predict outcomes. These connections can be between people, events, and places. And why this is so important to sense these connections, because as the virtual world and our reality begin to merge, we need to be aware of what's influencing our life. So now we're on to character. Our characters shape our perspective, and we can all acquire these traits and improve them only if we adopt our growth mindset. So first up, we need to be empathetic. We need to put ourselves in other people's shoes. But what this needs to be developed to is emotional intelligence. We need to be aware of how emotions affect us and the people around us, and then use this to our advantage. Aristotle, one of the greatest thinkers of our existence, he had this down to a T. What you think and how you feel, well, they're one and the same thing, and we need to make sure they're all aligned. Next up, poise. This is confidence in yourself. But this needs to be converted to confidence in your convictions. You need to stand up for what you believe in, especially as the world becomes more competitive. This quote, I feel, sums this up perfectly. It is vital that we work on our self-image, build our self-esteem, because how can people see us as great if we don't see ourselves first? The next character trait I'd like to mention is attention to detail. And I was reading an article the other day, and it said, as our lives become more automated, as is the introduction of artificial intelligence, our point of difference is going to be in the smallest details. But this isn't just enough. We need to channel that to focus. We need to focus to learning new things and applying what we've learned to new concepts. And as a fan of Star Wars, this quote really rang true. What you give your time and attention to will determine your reality, and it will determine the way you live. Next up, we've got ambition. We all want to do something great with ourselves. But ambition without vision is useless. And Oprah, she shares her wisdom. You believe what you become, and you believe what you become every single day. Lastly, we have optimism. I remember reading what Einstein said. He said, the most important decision we ever make is the decision we decide whether we live in a hostile or a friendly universe. Because if we have an optimistic outlook, this is going to affect our attitude, and our attitude is going to affect our behavior. But as marketers, optimism is little use if we can't convey and communicate our enthusiasm and our positive outlook. And that's where voice comes in. And in the last quote, there's reason for these words. Because people with this quality, well, they don't believe in failure. They either win or they learn. So What can we do to actively prepare ourselves? We've touched on mindset, we've touched on skill set, and we've touched on positive character traits we can develop. Well, I found a development model that Deloitte implements called the 3 E's, and it really seemed to resonate with me on a rational level, and it's applicable to all of us. So the first E is education. There you go. This is the formal learning. This is the books we read, the courses we take, the articles we read online. Any bit of information we are filtering through our mind, we need to take care of. Because if we're reading rubbish, well, then we're going to project rubbish. We need to make sure that we are clinical in what we are reading and what we are putting in our mind. The next bit of learning is introspective learning. And this, more importantly, is probably the learning we do about ourselves. You know, are you building on your emotional awareness? Are you building confidence in your heart? And are you focused on personal development every single day? The next E is experience. And that's what's so beautiful about our year at Red and Yellow. We got first-hand experience of the industry we are moving into. So my advice to you is, explore your options. Think about the specific experiences that you want and that you need, and get uncomfortable about it, because this will force your skill set, mindset, and help you develop those character traits under pressure. We need to experience completely. Immerse yourself in what you're doing. There's no point doing something if you're not going to give it your all and take the best out of it. And lastly, we need to evolve. But we can't evolve unless we let go of all our previous biases and prejudices, which we all have, and move towards the future with a positive attitude. So our last E is exposure. These are the people you expose yourselves to. You know, who are you learning from? Who are you getting exposed to, and how are they benefiting your lives? Are all questions you need to ask yourselves as we move into the professional world. You also need to expose yourselves to new ways of thinking. And this isn't necessarily what you're thinking about, It's how you are thinking about it. Thinking about an issue from multiple perspectives can give us an all-rounded outlook and really guide us in developing that growth mindset. And lastly, we need to expose ourselves to risks. Mark Zuckerberg said, in a world that is always changing, the only strategy guaranteed to fail would be to not take risks. And given his influence in this world, I'm inclined to agree with him. So, as we come to an end, we've established that the 3 E's are critical to building capability and ultimately entrenching confidence in who you are. We are all aware that our world is evolving, and we need to pay attention and evolve with it as to not get left behind. However, if we stay close to trends and drivers of change, we can expand our skill set based on the future we are moving into. And if we cultivate our mindset and harness and really develop our character, we'll not only know where we are going, but we'll know what it takes to get there. And we'll learn to thrive and grow through every step of our personal journey. I'd like to thank you guys all for a wonderful year. It's been absolutely fantastic, and I'd like to wish you the best as you all become the main characters in your own future. I'd like to leave you with the words of Master Yoda. What you will find in your future is what you take with. May the future be with you.